BackBeat is proudly sponsored by the Santa Barbara Bowl. Welcome to BackBeat, a show highlighting people that make a difference using music in our very own community. I'm Shannon, and we tape our show right here at Playback Recording Studio, a cutting-edge facility for film, television, and music production, located in the beautiful city of Santa Barbara. Coming up, it's party time in Liverpool. For the last decade, Santa Barbara band, the Tearaways, have been invited to perform at the largest free musical festival in the world. Take a look at what it's like to play in front of 60,000 people, and at the famous Cavern Club, which was the home of the Beatles, by the way, and the Santa Barbara Bowl, best known for its stunning views and awesome concerts, gives back by supporting education in the arts and music. Education outreach recipient Michael Katz uses his entertaining style to teach kids the art of storytelling. Also, carved like a violin, the shape, the curves, and the sound give this guitar a very sensuous look and feel. Master luthier Robert Carbonaro shows us how he blends art and woodworking into the skillful making of the archtop guitar. Plus, her laid-back folk-pop music style is fun and easy listening. Singer-songwriter Haddon Cord talks about her LA move and plays one of her songs for us. So keep it here and keep it loud. We'll be right back. Santa Barbara Bowl's education outreach provides much-needed support for music and performing arts events and programs for area students. $1 of every ticket sold to bowl events helps to fund arts education throughout Santa Barbara County. A big thanks to Playback Recording Studio for supplying the location for BackBeat. Playback Recording Studio is a cutting-edge recording facility for film, television, and music production.
Did I let the audience know I forgot?
No.
Am I freaking out?
No.
And I'm breathing, and I just keep going. It better be a good riddle.
For over 20 years now, I've been a professional storyteller in Santa Barbara. I got my start with my radio show called Cat's Pajamas, where I would tell stories over the radio. Still doing that radio show. And what happened after that was I started teaching storytelling in the schools and doing assembly performances of stories from around the world. At this point, thanks to the Santa Barbara Bowl's funding, I'm able to reach every school, every public elementary school in the city of Santa Barbara. I've always known that I wanted to work with kids ever since I graduated from college. And through a series of events, I found myself doing a radio program, reading stories over the air. And when I started to tell stories with children, I noticed how engaged they were.
What are the two important things about the
And the importance of both the wonder of a story, the listening, and the telling.
So everyone, she's doing it all with her hands. That's why you don't cross your arms in front of you. That's why you don't have your hands in your pocket.
So through storytelling, students learn how to learn a story. They learn how to tell the story in a captivating way.
Be the mother rabbit.
And they learn how to listen.
Ooh, too warm. She spits it out, throws it on the porch, spanks her, whap. She goes running out in the woods crying.
The skills gained are everything from story comprehension, eye contact, vocal rhythm, characterization, and maybe the most rewarding thing of all, a sense of pride.
Welcome back. I'm here with Haddon Cord, my new BFF. Hi.
Yes.
I think you're the type of girl that every guy wants to meet and every girl wants to be. I love it. I love it. I've had so much
thank you.
course. I've had so much fun getting to know you, but tell us about like how you got started singing and songwriting and playing guitar and what music really influenced you growing up.
Oh goodness. Well, I've been playing music forever because I grew up in a really musical family, and I was just a total diva when I was little. I was just like, I had all this like pent up passion inside me to perform. So I was always, doing plays and just doing concerts around the neighborhood.
Wanting to entertain people.
Yeah,
Perfect.
always. So
How old were you when you started playing guitar?
when I started playing guitar, I was about 13.
Okay.
I was about 13, but I started really wanting to get into music when I was young. I was 5 when I discovered Britney Spears. And she like rocked my world. She rocked my world, and I was just obsessed with her, and I watched all of her videos, and I wanted to be her. And so she was my first real influence. And then I started discovering Sheryl Crow, who's probably my biggest influence in my music.
You guys have a similar style.
Yeah, I love her. I love just how she carries herself, and her music is just the best.
Perfect. Well, speaking of influences, for over 10 years, the Tearaways have performed and partied at the Matthew Street Festival. So we're off to Liverpool, England to hear them play.
I remember about 9 years ago, the Tearaways were touring Europe, and we had an opportunity to play the Cavern Club in Liverpool. And this is the birthplace of British invasion rock and roll and so much history. We thought, well, we have to do this. I am glad to say for myself that we played there when smoking was still allowed in the club. You get in there, you walk the spiral staircase down, 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 and it's about 128 degrees in there. High humidity and smoke filled, and you're going, this is unbelievable. The walls actually are sweating. You can see in them drip. And I'm glad I saw it, because when we were doing that in our early years of playing there, you'd have a very nostalgic moment thinking, what year is this?
These guys are fantastic. They're going to entertain you till the end of the night, and they're going to rock and roll for you, and they're awesome. Make some noise. Tearaways! Thanks, Steve.
The night ended up turning out to be a great one, and the owner of the club happened to be there and said, I've got a great gig for you to come back to. He says, boys, I want to bring you back to a festival that we've got, and that turns out to be the Matthew Street Festival. And he's telling us how he had so much fun, and the whole bar had fun with us, and that there's all these bands that they play the Cavern Club, and they believe that there's something special because they're playing the Cavern Club. And he says, look, we're just a club, and be it there's a little bit of history. And we're thinking, yeah, there's some history here. He says, think of it this way, there's all these bands, and some can play, they can sing, but they don't have any material. Then you get these bands that have material, but they're not great musicians. Then you get these bands that they can play, they can sing, they've got good songs, but got this attitude. And everybody wants to be up where the big boys are. You know, and we can all think of the big bands throughout the rock and roll history. And he puts his hand up and says about this imaginary line. He says, just imagine, everybody wants to get up to that spot where the big boys are. And what you boys have done, what you've done is you've crossed that line. We've crossed the line, and the rest is history for us there. The Matthew Street Festival, being the world's largest free music festival, attracts huge crowds. Not like you'd see here in the States so much, but it's a big street festival, so they set up concert stages. Everything there seems a little bit bigger, from the way they use their sound systems, to the stages, to just the way it's presented. All the local pubs are just filled. There's music going on all over town. The Cavern is one of many venues that is happening at the time. It's still probably the most historical name that everybody wants to at least see that and be part of it. So the Tearaways have been playing the Matthew Street Festival in Liverpool for several years, and we get a call from Joey Molland, who is one of the original members of Badfinger, the only surviving member, and asked us to be his band. Could we do this in Liverpool during the festival? We thought, absolutely. If the Tearaways were around back in the day, we would have been very much a Badfinger type of band. Badfinger was the first band signed to Apple Records, which is the Beatles label. They had songs like No Matter What, Come and Get It, which was given to them by Paul McCartney. So we get to Liverpool, and we know that we're going to be playing a set of Badfinger and probably more, and we have one 45-minute rehearsal with Joey Molland, and little I know that we were going to be billed as Badfinger in front of about 75,000 people. So I'm thinking, great, in my position in the band, I'm basically playing George Harrison's parts in Liverpool, billed as Badfinger. I'm going, okay, great. And it went off just wonderfully. The Matthew Street Festival is the world's largest free music festival. And encompassed by that is the International Beatle Week. And when you're at Beatle Week, it's an extremely fun time, but you're not sure if you're in Beatles heaven or hell. If you hear that song one more time, you're thinking, oh boy. So we were essentially brought in to be more a breath of fresh air. We're kind of a party band for them, and we're their American brethren. When we show up, we're going, all right, it's our boys. They've given us this opportunity to do our thing. And a year ago, we were invited to play as Joey Mollen's Badfinger and the Tearaways, the Liverpool Philharmonic Hall. The Queen goes to the Liverpool Philharmonic Hall, and it's akin to playing Carnegie Hall in the States. It's very prestigious, and this particular night, it's a luminaries of Liverpool rock and roll. It has Pete Best, the Beatles' original drummer, with his band playing the original Hamburg Beatle days. You had Jerry and the Pacemakers. You have Badfinger, which is the Tearaways backing Joey Mollen. And I remember it so well where right before we're going to close with our last song of No Matter What, the organizer of the festival comes out, says, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Something has come up. And we're thinking, this is very irregular. He says, well, it's in a much shorter order than normally would take the place, but we felt we had to. We've inducted our boys, the Tearaways, in the Liverpool Hall of Fame. And I'm thinking, dude, he goes, California for you. Over the last 9 years of playing the Cavern Club so many times and being part of this festival, of all the entire week of no sleep and the amount of consumption that goes on that's staggering, it is part of our DNA. And I think for anyone who's a fan of the British invasion rock and roll and the Beatles' history, this is something that you have to experience.
Here's a short note for you. For a gold album, it takes 100,000 copies in Great Britain and 500,000 copies here in the US.
There are two popular theories for the creation of this box-like instrument, called a cajon. Some say it came from a number of box-like instruments from West and Central Africa, and adapted by Peruvian slaves from shipping crates. Another theory is that slaves used the boxes to combat Spanish colonial bans on music in most African areas. That way, they could easily be disguised as seats or stools. In reality, it was probably a combination of both. The modern cajon is often used to accompany the acoustic guitar and is now widely used in contemporary music.
We're back with my new favorite singer-songwriter, Haddon Cord. And earlier you shared with us that you grew up in Idaho, but how has Santa Barbara and being here influenced your music?
Oh gosh, it's definitely influenced my music. I love Santa Barbara, and I do consider myself an Idaho girl, but I've loved living here, and I like to say that I have a little coastal rock in my music.
You should coin that.
I know, I should. But I love the beach, and I love how tranquil it is here and how relaxed all the people are here, and I want to incorporate that in my music for sure.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to hear your song, and we'll listen for that,
yes,
definitely. And coming up, a guitar that's sensual and built like a violin. Robert Carbonaro tells us more.
I was a guitar player living in San Francisco, and I walked into a music store on Haight Street where a guy named Rodney Albin was building guitars and teaching guitar making. I fell in love with the idea and signed up and made a couple guitars. From there, I've pretty much been on my own, although I did work for a year or so in Boston with a guy named Owen Shaw. He made violins and viola da gambas and taught me how to carve tops for archtop guitars. We had an order for a 7-string, or he did, and he passed it on to me, and that was my first archtop guitar. There weren't any books really on the subject. There was a 1-page article on Jimmy D'Acquisto from New York that I kind of read every day, but that's how I started. Well, an archtop guitar is a guitar that was developed in the 30s, originally as a rhythm guitar to play with big bands. They have a big, chunky rhythm sound that could cut through a lot of the sound of a big band. But in later development, they really are used more for solo jazz guitar and bebop guitar. Their voice is unique and lends itself to that kind of music. While you can play any kind of music on any kind of guitar, the archtop really lends itself to jazz and improvisation. Of course, the overall beauty of the guitar is determined by the arch of the back and the front, and you know, those proportions, as far as I'm concerned, matter a lot. And you know, what you're looking for in a guitar is something that is really sensual, and that usually comes with curves. So that goes as far as you know, with many things, but certainly I feel guitars need to be sensual, and they generally are. The flat top guitars, although they are slightly arched in the top as well, this is done through bracing and the bending of the wood. While an archtop guitar is carved from solid wood into its curved form. And the archtop guitar generally has F-holes, and you know, for those of you that have seen people with guitars that look a little like violins, they're kind of a bridge between the violin and the guitar family, in that they're made similarly and with similar materials as violins and cellos, being maple back and sides and spruce tops. Kind of a departure from standard guitar construction, whether it be classical or steel string, into arch top, which is a specific type of guitar with a carved back and top. Although I've met many builders in my day, and we all come up with a lot of our own methods, it's pretty standard that you start out with deciding what kind of wood you're going to use, you know, and that is based basically on what kind of tone you're looking for. Also, aesthetics are involved. You know, people want a dark guitar, or you know, an archtop guitar. I always make them out of maple and spruce, but they can be colored in various ways. So once the wood is selected, then you know, we start gluing the top together, and once that's done, you start shaping and carving and spending, you know, many hours fine-tuning these pieces. Details need to be decided as far as the binding, or the outer edge of the guitar has usually a decorative strip, whether it's plastic. I use wood. Not only does it look great, but it protects the guitar from absorbing moisture into the end grain of the top and the back, and from getting the inevitable bangs that it will receive in its life. The edge kind of protects it in a, you know, relatively pleasing way. So the guitar is brought together and, you know, tuned and finessed to as high a level as I can achieve, and then the finishing process begins, which is generally sprayed, water-based, environmentally friendly lacquer at this time, and tinted or shaded, depending on what I feel like doing or what the customer is asking for. And then, you know, the fun part actually begins when you put the strings on and all of a sudden an instrument is born. It's really kind of like a birth process. The most fun for me is there's a period, or there seems to be a place where, you know, the accumulation of wood and metal and various parts come together, but then you put the strings on it and there's something that happens that gives it a voice that, although maybe similar in respects to guitars that I make, they still all have their own voice, just like every other family member. It's a really wonderful time for me when the guitars are coming to that level and showing me who they really are.
Here's a short note for you. In only 6 years, the Beatles had 6 diamond, 24 multi-platinum, 39 platinum, and 45 gold albums in the United States. We're back. Even though I don't want her to leave, I could talk all night to Haddon, but I have one more question for you. So I hear there's a big move in your future.
Yes, very soon I will be moving to LA, which I'm really excited about. I've been waiting for this for a while. I've just been saving up for the past couple years, and now I'm just ready to sort of get into it and
dive into where all the action is.
Yeah, I really wanted to polish myself and know who I was as an artist before I made the move. But I'm excited to sort of just grow up and live on my own.
Yes,
and do all that. And I'm going to be commuting. So I'll be up here a lot in Santa Barbara.
To come back to play.
To come back to play and to practice with my band and see my family. So.
Nice. So we'll be able to watch you play here in Santa Barbara, and then you're also going to be writing and singing and playing live venues down in LA too?
Down in LA. And just getting into this scene and meeting as many people and making as many connections as possible. And
well, I don't think that's going to be hard for you. I've had such a good time chatting with you, like I said. So with those questions answered, let's get straight to it. Haddon Cord sings one of her newest songs, Just Friends, accompanied by Macy Lucarelli on the cajon.
What's been going on lately? Well, baby, it's new and it's driving me crazy. Truth be told, boy, I don't wanna be tied down. I'm alright with what we got surrounded. Don't know how long what we have is gonna last. I've always heard this never works in the past, but we're just friends who like to kiss sometimes. We're just friends, don't leave my heart on the line. Friends, having ourselves a good time. Just friends, good old friends. Ooh, yeah. Well, I've been working hard lately, and baby, I'm stressed. It's a little bit crazy. To be told, boy, oh, you mean so much to me. We're just friends, and that's how it needs to be. Yeah, yeah. Don't really know what we got going here, but I'm the first to admit it's a little weird that we're just friends who like to kiss sometimes. We're just friends, don't leave my heart on the line. Friends, having ourselves a good time. We're just friends, good old friends. Ooh, yeah. No problems to be solved as long as our hearts aren't involved. We're just friends who like to kiss sometimes. We're just friends, don't leave my heart on the line. We're just friends, having ourselves a good time. Just friends, good old friends. Ooh, yeah. Just friends, just friends. Just friends, yeah.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. And please remember to support music and musicians in your community. I'll see you next time on BackBeat. A big thanks to Playback Recording Studio for supplying the location for BackBeat. Playback Recording Studio is a cutting-edge recording facility for film, television, and music production. If you would like to be on BackBeat or have any ideas or interesting stories of people that make a difference in our community by using music, please go to our Facebook page and search SB BackBeat.